The internet contains many dark and mysterious places, and some of those act as repositories for real-life, frightening tales. One such place is the subreddit Let's Not Meet. There, users share their ominous accounts of encountering strange and terrifying individuals, encounters which are enough to give anyone sleepless nights. These are just such stories. Here are the 10 creepiest Let's Not Meet stories. Number 10 is the office in the middle of nowhere. In this account, a Reddit poster called Borake111 confessed a terrifying ordeal. When he was 19, he had been working for an agency in Australia, which would send him on laboring jobs, usually to farms in the surrounding countryside. He'd work on each farm for a few weeks, until whatever jobs required were done. On one such job, he and another worker discovered a bizarre structure in the middle of the Australian outback. It was a large storage unit with security cameras dotted on the outside. After forcing their way inside, they discovered a number of computer servers running and boxes full of horrifying videos and images. They fled the scene and called the police. When they returned, the storage unit had burned down. What the videos and images were for, no one can be sure, but they were known to be utterly depraved. Number 9 is the Smiling Man. This account began somewhere in the US, a major city to be precise, which the original poster, known as Blue Title, left out of the story to remain anonymous. In it, Blue Title stated that he used to love going for long walks at night in order to clear his mind. For 4 years, he never once experienced any fear during those outings. That is, until one fateful night when he encountered a strange man doing a bizarre waltz by himself in the street. When Blue Title passed the man, he turned and noticed that he had stopped dancing and was staring at him with wide eyes and a horrid grin. The Smiling Man began following Blue Title, moving in an almost inhuman, shuddering way. He then chased Blue Title through the empty streets until vanishing suddenly back into the night from where he had originally come. Number 8 is They Didn't Know I Understood Spanish. Redditor Kira Shadowcat posted a terrifying ordeal to Let's Not Meet years ago. She had been in her final semester at college and worked part-time at a mall. Because she didn't have a car, she used to take a 2-hour bus ride to get to and from her work. To pass the time, Kira would listen to her iPod. But one late night, the battery in her iPod died. She suddenly became aware of 2 men in the rear of the bus talking in Spanish. Because Kira's mother was from Puerto Rico, she could understand what they were saying. The 2 men had been watching her and knew her bus stop. They were going to snatch her outside in the dark when she got off of the bus. Thankfully, Kira acted quickly and messaged her mother to pick her up in her car. When she did, the 2 men stared at them angrily as they left. Kira quit her job the next day. Number 7 is Terrorized for 2 Hours. One night, Redditor Maura Grace came back to her apartment to find that her roommates had invited people over for a party. The roommates were now sleeping, but one of the guests was lying on a couch in the dark. Maura walked past the man on the couch, who was lying perfectly still. That is, until he turned suddenly and opened his eyes, staring right at Maura. Thinking she had just startled the guest from sleep, she went to her room and climbed into bed. She was then frightened by a scratching noise and loud bangs. When she phoned her roommates rather than leave her room, she asked what was going on and who the guest was, and they revealed that there was no guest. The man on the couch had broken into the apartment, tried getting into one of the girls' rooms, and then fled when the police arrived. Number 6 is Stranger Under the Bed. 22-year-old Redditor Myra shared another chilling experience on Let's Not Meet, one which still haunts her to this day. About a year and a half before posting, Myra had been moving into her first apartment. While moving some things into the apartment, she was in the bedroom and accidentally dropped her phone while speaking to her boyfriend. Upon picking it up, something caught her eye. Underneath the bed lay the figure of a man, curled up with his back to her. Terrified, Myra said loudly that she was going to phone her boyfriend back after taking a shower. She went into the bathroom, locked the door, and climbed out of a window. When the police arrived, they found the man standing outside the bathroom, waiting for her to come out. Number 5 is the man in the yellow raincoat. A mother lived in an apartment in Korea. Her husband worked during the days while she took care of her daughter. One day, after shopping with her daughter, the woman got into her apartment building's elevator. She noticed in the corner behind her a man wearing a yellow raincoat. When she got to her floor, the man got off behind her and followed her to her apartment. The mother pretended that her husband was in and banged on the door asking for him to open up. The man in the yellow raincoat walked away at this, but when she used her key card and entered her code, he knew that she was lying. He rushed to the door, and her mother only got inside with her daughter just before he reached the door and was locked out. Months later, a serial killer was caught in the neighborhood, one who wore a yellow raincoat. Number 4 is the bag lady. Another Let's Not Meet encounter involved a Redditor who, while driving, got stuck at a light at 2 a.m. While waiting for the light to change, he noticed a frail woman in her 60s sitting on a park bench at the side of the road. She made eye contact with him and walked over to his car carrying a bag. Tapping on the glass, she said that her boyfriend had beaten her up and asked if the Redditor would take her to a friend's place down the street. When he declined, she asked the question again, using the exact same words, but delivered no emotion. Again, the driver declined, and she repeated the question one more time. As the lights changed, she leaned in and said with a creepy voice, "You made the right decision," and then walked off into the night. Number 3 is He Had Plans for Me. Redditor Jen Legend used the same hangout at a small patch of trees the neighborhood kids called Pinecone Forest. The trees were across the road from a friend's house. One day when she was a kid, Jen stood at the trees and peeled some loose bark off of one of them. Suddenly, a man appeared and grabbed her arm. He had yellowed fingernails and teeth, and he smelled of stale tobacco. He yelled at her and gave her trouble for hurting the tree. Jen's friend's mother had seen this happen and came to the door, shouting for Jen to come inside. As it turned out, they called the police on the man because he had been in the neighborhood acting suspiciously. In his van, they found photographs of Jen at school and playing in her yard. But most terrifyingly, the man had a key to a storage locker where police found evidence that he had been planning a terrible crime. Number 2 is camping in the Appalachians. In Redditor's 6 String Shadows account, he and his girlfriend had been hiking and camping along a remote section of the Appalachian Trail. The couple decided to camp in a small clearing away from the trail for a night. At 2 a.m., they woke to the sound of someone outside of their tent. Luckily, the couple were armed, and when they emerged from their tent, someone disappeared into the woods. The very next day, they tried to hike out, but had to sleep again in their tent. Again, they woke to find someone outside rummaging through their belongings. Panicked, the couple left their tent behind and hiked into the dark. As they did so, they heard voices in the woods and saw a man staring at them in the distance back on the trail. They made it out alive and still wonder who had been following them. And number 1 is babysitting gets creepy. When one Redditor was 13 years old. She used to babysit for people to earn some extra money. One night, she was to look after a couple's young daughter and son. The couple seemed a little strange, and when they left, things took a sadistic turn. The children seemed malevolent, taking joy in scaring the babysitter. While the babysitter made some sandwiches, she heard a crash. The young boy was upstairs and said that he twisted his ankle. The babysitter attended to him, and when the daughter appeared, he was suddenly fine. When she gave the sandwiches to the children, they grinned at the babysitter and told her she would eat hers first. But there was something about their grins which were disturbing. The babysitter looked inside the sandwich and found that the children had placed broken glass inside of it.